Hello, everyone. It was once said that a beginner studies tactics and a master or professional studies logistics. Today, we're going to take a look at one aspect of logistics, and that's going to be underway replenishment of vessels that are at sea. Now, somebody was having an interesting question where they're like, is there any way I can basically shove some tomahawks back into my empty destroyers? Been having a heck of a fun time with it. And the answer is, yeah, there's actually a couple different ways you can do it. The simplest method, of course, we covered in a video a little while ago where we basically went into shore and basically pulled Tomahawk missiles out of bunkers, and we actually delivered them by aeroplane. Today, we're going to take a look at how they do it while they're already underway, especially in the middle of the ocean. So let's go ahead and take a look at our scenario here. So we have a very, very, very small carrier group here. We have the lovely Milus there, and Arleigh Burke, number one, and he's basically chilling. He's had a busy week. He's fired off a lot of Tomahawks. He's fired off a lot of SMs. I don't even know what happened to the rest of the carrier group, but we can safe to say he's had a fun time. You can also see that he does not have a lot of fuel on board. He's more or less empty. Our carrier on the flip side is looking pretty good. You can see that our carrier there has got a full tank because, of course, it's nuclear powered, but it has gone through a substantial amount of its aviation fuel because obviously it's going to be supporting all the F-35s and stuff that are ripping off the deck. Yes, I know what year it is. So what we're going to take a look at here is we're going to try to figure out how to get stuff into these vessels now that we're at sea. So what I'm going to do is start by clicking on my lovely little DDG here, popping this sucker up real fast. And what I want to show you real quick, and this is going to be kind of a point that's going to confuse you a little bit later on, is the fact that our vessel itself can refuel from port, can refuel from starboard, replenish from port, replenish from starboard. Now, this is important because you'll notice it has an X2 and it has an X2. That's cool. In case one gets broken, we can use the other one. That's all that means. It does not mean you can stick like 8 ships into the side of this thing and basically fill it up in a hurry. That'd be kind of fun if you could do that, but the reality, you can't. The other thing we need to pay attention to is the type of fuel it carries. You'll notice we have two kinds. We have a gas fuel, good old-fashioned MGO, and of course we have aviation fuel in a secondary fuel tank. We burnt quite a bit of this. Now, if you're a level designer and you want to kind of have some fun with this, one of the things you can actually do if you're in scenario edit mode, like I am right now, is if you right click on these and go down to the scenario editor, edit unit properties, set unit properties. You can't do this in scenario mode, obviously. You can actually come in here with this little drop down and pick what you want to control. You can see, like I said, wow, does he burn fuel fast? That's quite a bit in a very, very short period of time. We got to get some gas in this guy here. So there's a bunch of different ways that we can replenish. And everybody's favorite way that doesn't work is by air. So what I have right here is I have a lovely C2 Greyhound. This is a really neat plane if you've not seen this. A carrier-based, basically mini cargo plane. And believe it or not, what I did to this poor thing is I put an ISO 20-foot container on it. And inside there, of course, there's a Tomahawk missile waiting. Now, you're sitting there going, this is so cool. We can just take that vessel and we can order him to land, which is what I just ordered him to do. He's going to land on the ship. He's going to unload that container, and the container is going to sit on the deck of the ship. Unfortunately, there's no way that we can do that. We can't get into that container and basically pull the missile out of it because it wouldn't matter anyway, because we'd have a very tough time basically trying to get the thing into the destroyer across the ocean here. So unfortunately, that strategy, at least at this time, is not going to work like you want it to. Keep in mind, if you have an aircraft that has stuff in like its laid out, it can drop that off in the carrier. Okay, so now that that's taken care of, let's take a look at our options for replenishment here. There's kind of I call it the almost aerial refueling method, which is it's okay. It's okay. And of course, the other method we have is to basically ride alongside of it while you refuel. So the U.S. Navy at this time basically has 3 different flavors of replenishment ship, if that makes sense. You basically have your fast combat support ships. This is this guy right here. This is the TAOE-6. In the old days, you had these AORs, which are basically these big ships that could kind of do one of everything. Let me go grab you one of those real quick, just for the sake of being thorough today. Let's see here. AOR Wichita is the one. So if you want to imagine, this ship was basically a kind of an all-in-one. It had fuel on board. It had dry stores on board. You can see it's got a million cranes and davits on the side, making it really, really easy. Solid ship. We kind of got rid of these, as you can see a little while ago. Instead, we kind of diversified the fleet as far as it goes. Our second option, of course, here is the lovely Henry Kaiser class. These are your oilers. Let me see if I can get you a bigger picture here. This particular vessel, again, this is designed for the stuff that burns, basically. If you want to think about petroleum, oil, lubricants, stuff like that. This is kind of the all-in-one. It's also a very, very fast ship. I think it's about like 20 knots or 22 knots. And then, of course, if you just need missiles and stuff like that, so you have the AKE versions. This is the Lewis and Clark here. Very simple. It's a dry cargo ship. And when I look at this, you can see it's also a little bit smaller. This thing, as you can tell by the openings on the side and everything, it is engineered from the ground up for the purposes of dropping things like missiles and stuff off. Now, if you're a scenario designer, one of the things you have to keep in mind is you have to put missiles and stuff into there. You're not going to get it by default. So if I click on this vessel and click on magazines, you'll actually see here that there's a special area here to add munitions. So for example, if I want to add those tomahawks in here, I can actually come down here. I can type in, what is it, RGM, I never get it right. And I know they're Ds. Where's my Ds? Carbon filaments. I didn't realize they had a thing for that. That's cool. I'll go play with that one later. And of course, you can add as many as you want. You can come in here and say, give me 100. And now there's 100 tomahawks on here. Granted, you can't shoot them off the deck, which that seems legit. But keep in mind, we can now reload them. All right, now that that's taken care of, let's deal with the actual replenishment. Now, there's a couple different ways to do this, and this is kind of where things get a little interesting, I guess I would say. So the first thing we can do is we can come over here, right-click on my entire group, unwrap, and pick which one we want to do. We can either select provider automatically, in which case they're going to pick something that's available and it's got what it needs, or, of course, we can do it manually. Then, of course, we can also rearm automatically, and we can rearm manually. Now, one of the things that happens, and you got to be kind of careful with this, and by the way, we can do this with missions as well, is the fact that our lovely setup right now, if I do this with a carrier group, it's just going to go as the carrier, and this guy's going to do power donuts, and it's useless to us. So what I'm going to do instead is hit my 9 key on the numpad, which allows me to select these by unit, and then I can do them individually. I really recommend doing it this way because it's just simpler. You'll see what I mean when we get more complex in a second. So I'm going to come over here to my list here. I'm right-click on this one. I can unwrap, I can provide automatically, and I can rearm automatically. Check this out. So if I go to select provider automatically and just go like that, you'll notice he will break from the group without actually breaking from the group. That's important. And he will go scoot over to the first guy who can basically refuel him. If you actually come up here, you can see heading to refuel point, he's heading over to the Gerald Ford. Now, did you expect that? You should have, because if you remember, our carrier here is designed to do some replenishment of its own. That is basically the old school World War II logistics technique, where your carriers basically refueled all their escorts. So that was just kind of how they did it. So the cool thing here is he's going to go ahead and peel off, and he's going to run into the carrier, and he's going to put some gas on board. Now, the interesting thing is, all he's going to do is pick up aviation fuel. He's not going to be picking up his gas fuel because our carrier doesn't carry any. Now, if I want him to rearm, of course, I can come in here and I can say rearm automatically. I can pick what things I want to rearm, which is actually really cool, assuming they're available. I can go like that to anything. And what you'll notice here is he's changed his mind. He's no longer going to the carrier. He's decided to go over to supply because supply has everything he needs on board, which is super handy. Let's go ahead and speed up some time here. You can see he goes, wee, da, 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 da. You can see the Greyhound just landed there. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. By the way, like I was mentioning earlier, we can't make that delivery. So you'll see here that a Greyhound did land. He's basically getting ready to go. And you can see he dropped off the ISO container. But unfortunately, like I said, if I go to cargo right quick and I go to my ISO container and I open it, it says you can't put it like this. And it's like, oh, that would be so easy. I could just deliver what I need. So anyway, you can see our early work here is racing over to the resupply point. And this is one of the things that people forget about logistics. Okay, so we're refueling. You can see I have 1.2 million kilograms of fuel to go. And you can also see we're replenishing. We have 233 items to go. Now keep in mind, I cheated a little because I actually loaded this guy up with all sorts of really good stuff. Like if I go into his magazine, see how he's got all his tomahawks and his rims and stuff like that. He's pretty much ready to rock. So you're probably doing the math in your head real quickly here going, okay, you're at 15x speed, and every time I look up, it's about, 100 kilograms. Yeah, that's how fast that is. That's logistics for you. Now, the cool thing here is, and I love this, if I come to my Gerald Ford and right-click, if I were to actually go in here and say, hey, do you mind doing this too? I can come in here, right-click with that. So I can come here, rearm automatically like that, and check it out. He's going to go rip over to the same ship. So both of these ships are actually rearming at the same time from the same buddy here. So poor supply is basically getting emptied by an aircraft carrier and getting emptied by the Arleigh Burke down here. Just kind of the fun, I guess. You can actually see its fuel start to go down. It's kind of cool. And keep in mind, there's different types of fuel on board as well. Now, our carrier, of course, you'll see he's refueling. He's actually basically getting loaded up with aviation fuel, which he needs. And if I come down here, too, you can see how are we doing here? He's actually doing pretty good. He's refueled nicely. And the big thing for him is that he's replenishing. And you can see it takes a very, very long time. Now, you're sitting there going, wow, that's kind of obnoxious. It's like, yeah, it is. Let me show you something different. So I'm going to go ahead and select our scenario again here. I'll go ahead and open up blue team for the win. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to tell that Greyhound to come down and land. I don't want him just be goofing around in the sky. We're going to grab this ship. I'm going to move it down here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this point. And I'm actually going to group these ships together so that our buddy Supply is actually part of our squad here. Squad, or whatever, I don't know. Vines aren't things anymore, I hope. So what we have here is we have this one is now part of this group. What I really want to do is be able to keep going to my destination, but what I really like is for everybody to go ahead and get some stuff off of this guy. Now, there's a lot of really fun ways to do this, and I'll show you one of the ways that you can do it. So what I'm going to do is click right here, press F4, and I'm going to make the supply vessel the chief of this group. This sounds like a bad idea, but you'll see why it's so useful. And again, there's different ways to do this, but this is kind of the fun way to do it. All right, we're going to set him as leader, which, like I said, seems goofy, and I'm going to cheat a tiny bit here, and I'm actually going to place them into a little formation like this. And all I did that for is just to simplify kind of what's coming up next. So now that he is the group lead, we can now do really silly things like this. Watch this. I'm going to come to the MI list here, right click. I'm going to unwrap, and look at this. I'm going to select a provider manually, click, and now I'm going to go ahead and order him to go ahead and do some unwrapping. I'm going to grab this guy over here. I'm going to go ahead and select my provider. We're going to do manual providing select, boop. And I'm going to go ahead and order him to go ahead and do some rearming because he's running out of stuff. Now, if you observe here, this is pretty wild if you actually watch this, but you'll notice that my two vessels here are basically sneaking up on the poor Wichita here. Actually, it's not the Wichita. You can tell I've done that one a few times. All right, are you guys doing 10 knots? No, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. We're about to get two massive vessels coming alongside your vessel right now, and they're basically going to steal every... Why did you just turn that on? They're basically going to sit here and steal stuff off of you. And again, this is what's so great about these logistic vessels is they can do silly things like this. Like, look at this, look at this. Destroyer comes sneaking up and goes, can you hit the brakes for just a second? You're going awfully fast for us. And what you'll notice here is we are moving and resupplying simultaneously. You can see he's taking on his fuel. You can see he's also replenishing those items. Meanwhile, the carrier here is like, could you slow down, please? Is he going to get it? Is he going to get it? I think that's, I don't want to say, I got to remember the name of that musical there. I'll never remember. There you go. So you can see here that our AOE6 supply is actually providing for everybody behind him. And as long as he has available things to do that with, he can crank those things out. Keep in mind, in bad weather, you can't do this. And again, he could do 4 ships. Oh, wait, what's this? He could do 4 ships at a time. And then replenishment, he can do 6 ships at a time. That's absurd, and I have no idea how in the universe, with any real weather, you'd be able to pull something like that off. But you can see right away just how darn useful this particular strategy is once you're already at sea. I wonder what happened to our poor Greyhound. He's coming. He's coming. He's had a long week. He's coming, though. So as you can see, it is perfectly possible to do silly things like this, where we basically use one vessel to kind of keep everybody rearmed. Things you need to know, though, is obviously this takes a long time to do. This is not something, you want to see a little cha-cha line, let me show you. It takes a while, and you probably noticed when you're doing anything with fuel, the fuel numbers tend to be in millions. They don't tend to be in like hundreds or anything like that. Yeah, look at this, look at this. So if I were a really, really angry missile right now, you can see just how easy of a task this would be to basically end this entire fleet. But it also gives you an idea. In the real world, they'll actually pull up alongside like this, and they'll basically run hoses to each other. And it is the most sketchy, dangerous thing you've ever seen, especially if you take a look at the difference in scale of the vessels. I think this guy's a little oversized, but that's okay. It is really, really cool stuff, though. But as you can see, very useful. We could also create a mission for it. I chose not to do that, because if you create a mission, it's going to do the same thing as what we did over here originally. But as you can see, if you just add them to the group and slow down, it makes it easy enough. Enjoy.